Deborah Hersman is the National Safety Council president. She's the former NTSB chair, and she joins us via Skype. Ma'am, it's great to have you here. We've learned from the president today that investigators from the NTSB are going to go to the site in Ukraine to do an investigation. Please bring our viewers into the process. What are they going to do, and what do they do considering the fact that they're heading to an area that's considered a war zone?
Sure. I'd say right now it's all about logistics, how to get the people on the ground, making sure that they have the protection that they need to operate safely and securely once they're there, and that they have the resources or the assets to support them. This is a very wide debris field, potentially 9 miles long, and they've got to be able to track every single piece of that aircraft so they can put it together, because the important parts are going to be the ones that tell them exactly what happened.
Typically, the black box, the flight data recorder, all that is something that everybody covets and goes after. But in this case, will it be as valuable, do you think?
You know, I think there's a lot of speculation right now about exactly what happened. A lot of people are coming out with conclusive statements. One thing that the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder allow people to do is corroborate evidence and information. And so it is still important to find those to make sure that they get an accurate picture of what happened. The cockpit voice recorder can tell you a lot. In TW800 back in 1996, the sounds of the cockpit voice recorder that were recorded actually helped investigators pinpoint the center fuel tank explosion. And so you don't want to discount the information that you can get from those devices.
How does it work in an international setting where, does the U.S. even really have jurisdiction? It wasn't an American plane. It's not an American flight. They're not going to, there's no reason for Americans to be there except that, I assume, our expertise. How does it work as they work with international regulators?
So in this case, for example, we've got pretty specific international protocols through the International Civil Aviation Organization. The countries that are signatories to that agree to a certain process. The state of occurrence leads the investigation, but other states, other countries, they have the right to participate. The state of the operator, Malaysia, the state of manufacturer, which is the U.S., because this is a Boeing 777, has a right to participate in an investigation. Now, when you have something that's a criminal, a terrorist, or a purposeful act, that's not an accident investigation, but these protocols generally help people to understand how to conduct these investigations anyway.
We're not going to ask you to speculate too much, but we can't let you go without, I mean, you have tremendous experience in all kinds of air disasters. From what you have seen so far, from what we have heard, from what we have read, I know you haven't been there, but what do you think happened? What do you think they're going to find there?
You know, I think we're just 24 hours into this event. There's an awful lot of information that's coming from the intelligence community and the security side of the House. I think we'd want to make sure that we can verify and corroborate all of that information. There's a lot of statements that are being made, but you've got to have all of the supporting materials, not just to rule things in, but also to rule things out. And I would say from an investigative perspective, it's still pretty early. You want to see the evidence. You want to see all of the equipment that's on the ground, and you also want to review all of the tapes and the data.
Malaysian Airlines has been fending off criticism of people, as people have asked, why did you fly that route? Why did you fly over eastern Ukraine? Can you give us any insight into how that process works? And is it right for them to defend themselves? Is it right for them to be criticized?
Well, I don't think the Malaysians were the only ones that were still flying over the airspace in Ukraine, but I can tell you that every single carrier is going to be doubling down and taking a look at their routes and identifying the risks. And when it comes to aviation, these are very low probability but high consequence events, and you have got to do a proper risk assessment to make sure that you're protecting your assets, and particularly for commercial air carriers that provide passenger service, to protect those people who are entrusting you with their safety.
Former NTSB chair Deborah Hersman, good to see you again. Thank you for your thoughts today, ma'am.